Well, folks, the clouds have rolled back in and the sweaters have come back out, which means
Yes, yes. Yes. Yes, sir. Alright, I think we're ready. I think we are ready to get started, my guys. Good, everybody. Couple differences in our format today. We got some time to experiment a little bit, play around with some of the different tools and see what some of the different streams look like from the past couple. And first off, right off the bat, we got a different stage, right? Going forward, we're gonna have a nice big presentation to showcase the browser. I'm actually gonna increase that a little bit more. Actually, I'm gonna take it up to 175 because I feel like that might be necessary. And then for the IDE, we got a whole different stage now. We're gonna be looking at this a lot bigger, easy to understand, a lot more legible. So there's that. And also, I felt like it was time to hang on, let me just go back to our browser, go to the studio mode here. I want to show one more thing that I'm changing up, which is hang on, let's rename this to browser. Okay, let's go ahead and make that more obvious, and then we'll put IDE here, code here. All right, and this is going to be our main stage. So whenever I'm just talking, discussing things, I'm gonna zoom out a little bit, and I'm gonna show this screen. And then when we diving in, looking at real code or real browser windows, we're gonna go into the other stages, right? Which this is our this is our IDE window, and then for browser we got this guy right here, which is this here. So I don't know what that looks like in the stream yet. Actually, let me get out of studio mode and just do a couple test transitions so that I have this understanding of what these look like, right? So there's IDE, there's browser. Okay, so that looks good. All right, so while thinking through this project a little more, I realized that we were getting serious, right? I realized that this was becoming a serious project that we needed to take on. And the way that I've found most of my project success in the past has been through a couple of different mechanisms, but mainly it's been following the Scrum methodology, right? And that is a development practice that's like a workflow practice that I want to dive into so that when we start using it, everybody that is in tune kind of understands why we're using it and how we're using it, right? So let's talk about that. Let's first start with the let's actually no, you know what I want to do? I want to go back and catch everyone up on what we're trying to do. So what we were trying to do, let's come over here to the browser, right? We're in this browser stage, and let's take a look at what we were trying to do in the first place. Our goal, okay, is to create a gaming website that looks and feels a little bit like this IGN website, right? So it has a landing page of some sort that kind of teases a bunch of content from different sections. And then if you go to one of these section pieces, like this one, you have this concept of tagging. You have a story content type, which is where this title comes from. Some of these elements come from. You have a person content type. You can say that a person wrote this specific article. And then inline in your story, you can say that it's populated by certain elements, right? Certain story elements. So in this case, the place that I'm highlighting right now would be like a rich text element. And then this video would be like a video element, like a media element, and so on and so forth, right? And that's kind of what we're doing. And this is what we came away with as our content model, right? We said we need 3 different content types: a story, tags, and a person, right? We need to be able to create those types of content And inside of those content pieces, we have various elements, right? So inside of a person, you have an image. Inside of a story, you have text blocks and media, etc. That's kind of the content model that we came up with. And in thinking through this a bit more, it was like, how do we, in my mind, I was like, how do we stay on track with everything that we want to do for this project? How do we like stay on track? So of course I had to look at my professional experience and say, well, how do I stay on track today? And that's where the Scrum methodology comes in, right? I stay on track because I leverage something called the Scrum methodology. Okay, so what is Scrum? In short, Scrum is a process, right? That's like the long short of it, right? Scrum is a process. Scrum's an agile team collaboration framework commonly used in software development, and teams break work into goals to be completed within a time-boxed iteration, right? And those iterations are called sprints. So a team may say, I want to solve a Rubik's Cube. Okay? I want to solve a Rubik's Cube. And they would divvy that up into tasks. They say the first task is, I need someone to solve the first layer. Okay? And then the second task is, I need someone to solve the second layers, right? The second and third layers, the bottom two layers. And then the third task may be, I need someone to take what's been solved from layer 1 and 2 and 3 and just solve the cube now. Right, so those will be done in sprints. You may say that the first layer and the second 2 layers are done in one sprint, and then that final layer, that final solving of the cube, is done in sprint 3. So that's really what Scrum is. It's a way of breaking up a big project into smaller tasks and then divvying that work out among various sprints or iterations. Okay, so in order to properly manage the work in a sprint, you need something called tickets, right? So tickets sounds weird, but that's how the development world kind of manages work, right? Everything is in the form of a ticket. And a ticket is a task that details specific work to be done by a specific person on a specific team. Okay, so throughout your time on a given team, the product owner will receive requests from partners and stakeholders, and they'll eventually convert those requests to tickets that live in a place called the product backlog. Okay, so now someone comes to your product owner, they say, hey, I really need to solve a Rubik's Cube. Okay, that's the goal from your product owner. Okay, I need to solve a Rubik's Cube, and your goal is telling you as a developer, one of the business stakeholders, they want to solve a Rubik's Cube. And he'll probably ask you, your technical lead, hey, what does it take to solve a Rubik's Cube? What are the things involved? And they'll say, well, first you have to solve the first layer, and then you have to solve the bottom 2 layers, and then you can use those 2 things to solve the whole cube. So now in your product backlog, you'll have 3 tickets, right? One ticket would be solve the first layer of the cube. A second ticket would be solve the second 2 layers of a cube. And then a final ticket, a third ticket in the backlog, would be solve the Rubik's Cube entirely, right? And as part of the third ticket, solve the Rubik's Cube entirely, the required tickets, or the, I don't want to call them linked, but it would be the prerequisite tickets, right? In order for me to complete ticket 3, you have to have completed ticket 1 and 2 first. Okay, so that's kind of how the ticketing system works and the backlog system works, right? So then I think the next thing that makes sense to kind of go over is the concept of Scrum ceremonies. So what's a ceremony in Scrum? So let's think about this, right? So you have a product person, someone on the business side of the fence. They come to your product owner. They say, hey, I would love it if we can solve a Rubik's Cube. And now you have items in the backlog that help you solve that Rubik's Cube. So in order to actually get that work moving, there's these ceremonies that take place, okay? The first ceremony that I should mention is probably the backlog refinement or the grooming ceremony. And what that ceremony is for is it allows you to look in your backlog and see what work exists there. And you take work from that backlog, from that the 3 tickets I mentioned in that backlog, and you actually flesh them out with details. So for that first ticket, right, for the one that's like solved the top layer, now you have Rubik's Cube's experts or developers telling you what it takes to solve that one ticket. Okay, so it may be, oh, you need to do this algorithm, and you need to put this in place, and you need to do this, and switch this side, and flip this side, and blah, blah, blah. And if you do all of these things, known as acceptance criteria, you should have a solved top layer. Okay, so when you're doing backlog refinement, you're really just looking at the things that are added to the backlog and discussing what it takes to pull those things off. So that's the first one, right? Backlog refinement. The next one is sprint planning. Okay, so now that you have your tickets refined and you have all the items in that ticket fleshed out, like you know how to do it, now the next thing to do is to look at all of your tickets, put them up against all of your resources, your available resources in a scrum, and say, all right, let's plan the next sprint, right? Or the next iteration of work, right? And in a planning, you look at the level of effort for each individual ticket, and you say, well, I think that we can get this done, this done, this done, and this done, right? So in our Rubik's Cube example, if you only have 2 developers and one of them is working on something different, you may plan for one of those developers, the one that's freed up with time, you may have them focus on the top layer ticket while the other developer works on another priority. Okay, so in that sprint, you plan for this one ticket to get done. And then in the next iteration, right, you have another planning ceremony, because this is an ongoing ceremony, where that developer may pick up the second 2-layer ticket, right? So I'm going to do the second 2 layers. And now that the second developer, right, so there's 2 developers in this example, now that the second developer has time, they may pick up that third ticket as well. So they may say, hey, if this developer gets done with the second 2 layers in time, I will go ahead and pick up this third ticket. Right? So that's kind of what the sprint planning is. So then once the sprint has completed, you do something called a sprint review. And that's you as a team, right? Looking at all of the different things that went on in the sprint and figuring out whether what you're doing is the most optimal. Right, so imagine your team. We'll talk about the people that make up a Scrum team in a second. But imagine your team has the 2 developers I mentioned, and then the product owner, right? So if you were able to successfully do the first ticket, that one developer, but then when you looked at ticket 2 and 3, number 3 didn't get completed, you may want to fine tune some of your guesstimations, right? You may want to look at some of the work that you're saying that you can pull off in a sprint, and you may want to make adjustments. And that's the sprint review. And that kind of rolls right into the sprint retrospective. Okay, the sprint retro, as it's called. The retro's purpose is to allow for every team member to kind of give their opinion about how a sprint went. So you'll be like, well, I think that we did things this way, and this way, but some of these things we did, like the second thing, could have been done this other way. And because of that, we lost traction, or we didn't get certain things done, etc. Right? So it kind of offers your team a non-biased, anonymous opportunity to judge some of the decisions your team made in that sprint. And the idea for a sprint review, sprint retro, is that your team should be getting better and better and better over time, thanks to this feedback or this experience that they've had. Right, so in a sprint review, you talk about what you did in that sprint, what you think you can change. In a sprint retro, you give a very solid opinion about how things went. You give some action items that may lead to things being better, so that in the ongoing sprints, the upcoming sprints, you can say with confidence that things are better now, things are optimal, things are more efficient, etc. Okay, and then the last ceremony I just want to touch on is something that needs to happen every single day, and it's called the daily scrum. Okay, it's called, another phrase for it is the daily stand-up. And what this is a 15-minute call. It's normally really short, where everyone on your team goes around the table and they talk about what they are working on at that time, right? So if we go back to the first layer, the Rubik's Cube example, if we go back to the first layer ticket, that developer on day 1 may say, well, I just started digging into this algorithm. I have a sense of how it needs to work. And that ticket's in progress. Okay. And then a few days go by, right? You've had stand-ups every single day. And then let's say the next day, that developer may give you an update, but then a few days go by, that update may eventually get to, I have the algorithm, I'm just trying to implement it, I ran into a bug, I'm still trying to figure it out, I'll let you guys know. And then finally, at some point, that developer says, all right, I got it figured out, I'm just working on getting my code submitted to the code base. Okay? So that's kind of how work is managed in Scrum, right? In Scrum, which is just a process idea or ideal, so workflow, and you have these things called tickets that populate a backlog and eventually get onto a developer's plate to complete. So if you're ever wondering, like, how does work get completed in corporate America structures or large technical structures, that's kind of the rundown. So then it comes to, okay, now that a developer has done work, how does that developer actually get their work added to the code base that we see when we hit like www.facebook.com? How does my work get my ticket, for example, eventually get contributed back to a code base? So we're going to use a different example for this. It's going to be similar. Let's assume that our Rubik's Cube that we're building is actually a piece of functionality, right? We are trying to build some logic that will solve a Rubik's Cube visually on a website. Okay, so you can imagine some of those sites. Actually, if we go here, let's see here. I think I've seen one of these before. It's a simulator, yeah. So now if we do this, right, and we say scramble, that is a very slow scramble. All right, and then there's an online solver here that actually explains to you how to solve this. Okay, so if we hit play, let's scramble this again. I guess we got to scramble it. And then we hit solve. It's going to actually solve this, right? So it's telling you all the things you need to do in order to solve this, right? And that's awesome, right? 20 moves they solve this in. That's crazy. But you would write code to solve this, right? So let's actually think about that real quick, right? The first thing that you probably need to write is this interface, this UI, right? You need to first have something that says, I have a cube up here, I have a play button that when you click it, it takes you to a simulator. I have a solve button that when you click that, it takes you to a different simulator. Lower on the page, I have a scramble feature, etc., etc. So you would be divvying these tickets out as tasks to all of your developers, and eventually, one of your developers are going to say, hey, that first visual design that you mentioned, where there's a play, a solve, a learn, a time, a Rubik's Cube, some arrows here, scramble, I'm done with that. So the question is, how do they actually get that added to the code base? Right? And in order to explain that, I have to explain something called GitHub, okay, or just Git, I guess, and why it's needed. So GitHub itself, which is a really common tool, GitHub itself is a code hosting platform used for version control and collaboration. It lets you and a whole bunch of other people work together on a project from anywhere in the world. Okay? So now I know you might be wondering, well, what's version control? What is that? Version control is a class of systems responsible for managing changes to computer programs, documents, big old websites, anything like that, right? Version control says that on a Google Doc, for example, I can make a change to that Google Doc, and then 3 months from now, I can look back through the history and find that change and revert to that revision, right? That particular version of the change. So that's what version control allows you to do. It allows you to make a bunch of changes and then revert to those versions, those previous versions, or at least peruse through those previous versions of the change, right? It helps you kind of look at the evolution of a piece of software in this case, and understand how things progressed along the way. Okay, so in order to understand how that code that I just mentioned, though, the person that created this look and feel and all the clicks, whatever, in order to understand how that gets contributed, though, we have to talk about branching in the Git system. Okay, so what are Git branches? Well, branches allow you to develop features as a developer, right? So if you work on a piece of code, you say, well, I'm going to work on something that allows it to say, when you click scramble here, there's this animation of this thing scrambling, and it's really going to scramble this thing up. It's going to randomly pick and choose where things spin. That's done through a feature, probably called scramble, and that's committed to the code base through a branch, right? A feature branch. So you can imagine a branch just being a thing that you worked on or a capability that you were tasked with in a ticket that eventually needs to get pushed in to the general code base, but it's sequestered off into its own world so that your changes and updates don't impact everything everyone else is doing, right? Because that would suck if that everything you did, like, it affected everything else that was going on, right? So that's what a branch is. And then last but not least, before we get into some actual work today, we need to talk about actually submitting those changes back to your code base, okay? So, and that brings me to something called a peer review, and like submitting a peer review, which is in the technology world called a PR, and merging a peer review back into the code base, right? So what's the PR? In its simplest form, a PR, aka it's not a peer review, sorry. It's a it's a pull request. Okay? And a pull request is a mechanism for a developer to notify team members that they've completed one of the features, right? So you get a ticket, right? You get a ticket. That ticket has some kind of scope involved where you need to develop a feature. So you create yourself a branch from the main code base, and you start working on your feature, and eventually you're done with your work, right? Your work is ready to go. So you submit a pull request that says, hey, excuse me, code base, I have some new thing that I want to add to you, and I need my peers to review me before you can be added, right? So you would normally go through a process where your peers actually review that content or that change, and then eventually that change gets merged into the general code base, right? So that's what merging is. All right, so that's really it, right? That's the overarching corporate America structure or approach at managing code through the Scrum methodology. So let's just recap, right? So the Scrum methodology in and of itself is just a process that teams follow, right? It allows them to follow another process called agile development, and that just helps for team collaboration, team building or whatever. It basically says that we are going to follow these principles that eventually take a task and adds it to some product, right? So if I have a Rubik's Cube as an example, my Scrum process allows me to take a task like solve the first layer, right? And eventually push that out as a product that can be done. In the case of this website, right, I may want to use Scrum to create a scramble feature that allows me to say, after this work is done, you'll be able to click this button and this cube will scramble. Okay? In the Scrum process, we have ceremonies, 5 of them to be exact, and each of those ceremonies contributes to a developer's workflow to get that end state in place, right? So you have your backlog refinement, which is you just grooming stories saying like, hey, if you want to do the top layer, here are the development things you need to do. There is the planning ceremony, which is you saying, now that we have a top layer ticket in the backlog, I want to put this on your plate for this sprint. We have the sprint review and retrospective, which is a developer and its surrounding teammates like a scrum master, product owner, looking at the task and saying, hey, based on this list of tasks and this sprint, here's what I think we can do better, here's what we should stop doing, etc. And then finally, every single day you have this kind of check-in, which is your daily scrum, aka the stand-up meeting, right? So the reason I went through that long, drawn-out, probably kind of boring explanation is because I knew early on in this streaming web series that eventually we would need to get our ducks in a row, right? We kind of winged it when it came to completing some of the earlier things like, hey, well, we need a content model. We need to develop at least a couple of these content types, maybe just one. We need to develop some reusable fields, blah, blah, blah. I knew immediately that this project was going to get so big that it could get out of hand without a proper process management methodology behind us. So what we're going to be using for this project is we're going to be using the Scrum methodology, and there's a couple tools that come with that. So the first tool that comes with that, and I think the most relevant tool to the Scrum conversation we just had, is Jira. It's an Atlassian tool that basically allows you to take everything I just explained when it comes to the Scrum methodologies and bring those to life in a form of a web software, right? A piece of web software. So now the concept of backlog, or the concept of individual tickets, the concept of grooming and things like that. Now we can see that in real time on my actual Jira instance. So I have my backlog here. These are all the things that I know eventually we'll need to complete. I have a sprint running right now. That's our current sprint. And that sprint has a bunch of tasks that we need to complete in that sprint. At the end of this sprint, if I don't complete every single one of these tasks, then I'll be able to use my sprint review and retrospective ceremonies to say, well, we kind of overshot here. Maybe going forward, we should do less points, less tickets, etc. I don't think I pointed any of these either. We probably will need to do that at some point. Where we say that the level of effort for each one of these is XYZ. That way we can more easily predict how much work I can do in a single sprint, right? So that's kind of where we are, right? So now that we have that in place, I think the next thing to do is I want to do a real ticket to kind of jumpstart us or put us back into our development mode, right? And the last time we left off, what I'm going to do right now, so the last time we left off, we had just finished building out the person content type, right? So we had fleshed out all the fields, we had made all the bells and whistles for that. But after reviewing the work outside of the stream, I realized that there were some missing pieces when it came to that person content type. And that's where this bug ticket comes in. So there's a ticket here that says, hey, you need to add a slug field to both the person and the tag content types. And then you can see here, not only do I have a description as to what this ticket should deliver, but I also have something called ACs, which are the acceptance criteria. So what this does for me, right, is it reminds me of the things that I need to make sure I do in order to consider this ticket complete, right? And that's what we're going to do right now. So first, let's kind of go over, well, first let's get our stage set up, right? So I'm going to come here, I'm going to open our IDE, and we are going to run npm run dev. We are going to open our npm application, and we're going to say that's going to be the studio is what we're interested in. So we're going to navigate there. Okay. And if I come here, all right, if I come here, all right, that looks a little better. So now I'm in my studio. Let's go over to the browser, and we can see that I just opened my studio, and we have tags, people, and post. If I go over to people, all right, so we have our nice image, we have that. So what the ticket is asking, though, if we go back over to the browser, what the ticket is asking is like, hey, we need a field called a slug. And the slug field, for those who don't know, slug is basically a URL, right? I need this person content piece to have a URL so that I can access it through a URL. And if we look at the ACs, the first AC is that the person and the tag content types both need a slug field. The person content type, the slug field for both of these actually, needs to be something that we can auto-generate, meaning that it uses a piece of criteria from the article itself or from the content itself. Like in the context of a person, the slug should be generated based on the first and last name. Okay, in the context of a tag, it should be generated in the context of a title, right? So I'm actually gonna edit that, put some single quotes around, double quotes around that, make that bold. Just gonna follow the same structure. So okay, we can do that, right? That's not too bad. But in order to do that, we have to talk about the next thing on the list, which is using Git to actually grab the code from your code base. So we've done this already off stream, but you can see here I am on my GitHub repository, and a repository is nothing more than a place where you maintain and store all of the code that's used to power your website. So any code that you write to power your website is stored in a repository like GitHub or Bitbucket or one of those. So we are going to pull down our branch. We need to make a feature branch like we talked about before that would allow us to complete this bug, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I am going to head over to our, actually let's open this in a new tab. Really see what's going on here. And if we look over to the right, okay, these are some of the details. You see, one of the things I can do right now is I can actually create a branch from this ticket. Okay, and that's what we want to do. We want to create a branch because once we solve this, we'll use that branch to store the code for it. So I'm going to create a branch, and I'm going to create the branch based on our, so it's going to be our NextJS Insanity Clean, and the branch that I'm going to branch from is actually going to be the develop branch. Now here's why I do that, right? The reason I branch from the develop branch is because our main branch is what's actually being deployed to the website, right? So if we look at our code base today, everything that shows up in production on a website is the code that's in our main branch. So I don't want to push content there immediately, right? Because what if I make a mistake? What if something I do brings the whole site down or breaks something? So I want a middle step to push my code to so that I can actually review my changes before I say, okay, these are ready to go to the world. Okay, that's why you see sites like Facebook, YouTube, Google, etc. You rarely see bugs on those sites. That's because when bugs are introduced, they're normally happening in a lower environment, one that we don't even have access to. So for us, that lower environment is going to be our develop environment, where we actually submit our code there once we confirm that the code's not going to cause any issues. Okay, so let's go back over to the browser. Go ahead and comment that out. Let's do, so we're branching from develop, and that's an okay branch name. Let's just use that. Okay, so it says the branch was created, and we can go look at it on GitHub. And now I want to pull that branch into my local environment, right? So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to come here actually, and here's my branch. And I want to find out a quick way to copy this guy. Oh, here we go. So this is a really quick way for me to copy this, right? So this is the bug. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and then I'll come back over to my IDE. Let me share that with you guys. So I'll come back over to my IDE. And now I want to open another instance of this because I want to do a command that's going to pull in the branch that I'm working with. And you always want to do that because it's possible that the last time you checked out the code, there may have been a change made since I created this branch. So I want to check it out, right? So I'll do git check. Actually, I'll do git fetch first. That says fetch every branch that's currently on my repository, and we can see that that just added this branch here, right? So now I'm going to do a git checkout of this branch. This is the branch I just created. I'm going to do a git checkout of that branch, and now I am on that branch. I am actively editing on that branch, right? So this code that we see here in my code base, that is anything I change will be a change on that particular branch. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the ticket, and I want to just make sure I have the scope fully understood. So I'm going to grab this. I don't have to keep switching back and forth. And in my IDE, I am going to open a new tab, and I'm going to paste these ACs in here, the acceptance criteria. I'm going to paste them in here. Oh, excuse me. So now I know what I have to do, and it's just a matter of us doing them, right? So the first thing it says is that I need to add a slug field to the person content type. Okay, so we know how to do that. I'm going to go over to my person content type and bring this down as much as possible. I don't think we need to see that. And they don't tell us where it needs to go, but since it's directly tied to the name field, I'm guessing that it should go right underneath name. So I'm just going to add a pocket here for slug. I'll do my define field, and slug is going to be, we'll give it a name of slug, and what we'll say is that the type here is slug. I think slug is a compatible type for this. But as always, I'm going to head over to my documentation and just make sure that I'm not missing anything, right? So I'll go to sanity.io, I'll go developers, documentation, We'll look at the reference. We'll go schema, and then we'll go slug, right? So here we get a sense of what goes into creating a slug, right? And for us, we want to make sure this generate feature is there, because one of the ACs, if I'm not mistaken, is, yeah, for the person content type, the slug field can be auto-generated, and that comes from this little generate button. But I think that's something you get out of the box with the slug field. So let's see how they've done theirs. So here's one here where it says the will be ignored if slugify is set. Yeah, so basically the source, I want it to come from something specific, and the slugify input to lowercase. So this is how we can add our own flavor to the mix, right? We can add our own code. So let's look at this for a second. No, I don't want to deal with anything there. Yeah, so I want to do this is unique. That's going to be something that we want to do. Here's some React here. Include category of dataset is production. So here's some here where they are passing back their own string. Okay, which is what we want to do exactly. So we'll do, this is probably what we want to steal. Yeah, so we're going to use that, right? So the first thing I want to add is my unique option. So I'm going to add this option here that says and how do they do this? Oh, so I see. So they have a is unique library that they imported. I'll go ahead and grab that. This is a library element that they added. I'll go ahead and add that for us as well. And it looks like we may not have that. Where's our lib? We're in schema. Yeah, lib across all document. So it doesn't look like we have that. Let's see how they actually went about doing that. Yeah, so they actually added this manually. That's okay. Let's just add this to our shared functionality. So we have a shared where do we put it? Shared elements here. We also have something like utils in here somewhere as well. That's the validate. Yeah, here it is right here, right? So let's see if we can just add this here. Okay. And leverage it inside of that other document. So what we'll do is we'll go into our what do? We should go into our tag. Oh, not in here. Where do we put that shared? No, it's not shared. It's our... Yeah, where do we put that? Yeah, here it is, right here, right? So we'll just go ahead and add this to this list. We'll try and keep it alpha sorted, right? All right, so now we have is unique across all documents being one of the methods that we passed our utilities index file. So this should be available for export. Okay. And if we look back at the docs, doesn't look like there's anything here that we need to manipulate, right? I think we have access to it now. So now that we've done that, we should be able to see that there's no errors here. Go back to person. You see is unique now allows us to use this method without error. Okay, so if we go back to our sanity.io, oh wait, I was not in my IDE. I told myself I was going to do that too. All right, let's go over that one more time. So if we look at the browser, which we saw already, I see that in the documentation, they have this import here that is basically importing this chunk of JS, which is a function that allows you to make sure that your document that you're trying to use is not, that the slug that you're trying to use on your document has not been used before, right? So the first thing to do in your code base is to copy this and put it in some kind of resource that will allow you to expose it on another class, right? So if I go into our IDE, we can see what I've done is I went into our utils index.ts file. This is the utils that we created last time. And we have a bunch of shared methods in here. And this is where I will put this, right? I'll export this is unique across all documents inside of our util. And now that becomes an available utility inside of this import that I'm doing here, right? For uppercase and validate, we'll just include the is unique across all documents. And now inside of that slug field, we'll add the is unique here, which is an option key that is available on Slug. We'll add this method, right? This is essentially us doing it without having to add the code here directly. So if we go back to the URL, for example, we can see that this is the Slug documentation. One of the things that you can do in the Slug documentation is under options, you can do is unique. Okay? And is unique says you can supply a custom function which checks whether or not the slug is unique. And we're just using sanity.io's. Oh, excuse me. Man, bless me. We're just using sanity.io's specific unique method. Okay? So they gave us this out of the box. We're going to use it, which is this guy here. Okay, so we just added that to our code. Okay, let's go back there. We added that is unique there. So I think that this should work out of the box. I want to add one more thing, which is I want this to be auto-generatable based on very specific criteria, right? I want it to be a combination of the names first and last string. Okay, so this means if two people have the same name, I may need to do something to make sure that these are unique. I may need to add like a 1 or something like that. So let's go back over to the browser. Okay. And let's find out how to auto-generate that, which is using source, right? So it's using source, and it's saying it wants to use the title field. Okay, so for us, we're going to use the name field. And we want to do something a little tricky, though. We want to do something different. So let's see what so here's our source option, right? We do have the option to do some React code here. So what we're going to do is on source, we're going to grab doc and context, and we're going to leverage that to see what we have access to. I believe we'll have access to the name field, but let's just test that out first. So we are going to go back over to the IDE, and we're going to add ourselves a source field here. Okay. And we are going to say that the source field is passing in the doc and context. Okay. And that is going to return us a string, it looks like. Yeah, it's going to return a string. So we're just going to say return hello world because we don't want to deal with that right now. Right now, we're just doing a console.log of the doc variable. And then we're going to do a console.log of context as well. Okay. Let's save that. Let's go back over to our browser. Hang on. This is giving me an error. That's because the comma needs to be there. Okay. And then now it's saying source not existent. Okay. So it's saying that there's something off with our usage of source. And it's because source goes inside of the options object. Let's go ahead and fix that. We'll move source into options. Okay, so now source is in options, and that error goes away, which is good. So we will now go back over to the browser and go to our IDE, which is here. And there are some issues with loading, so I'll go ahead and refresh that. But okay, so now we have the slug field, and we want to know what we're getting. Oh, excuse me. We want to know what we're getting when we generate this, right? So I'm going to hit generate. And one of these is our doc, and one of these is our context. So let's see which one we need, right? Doc is the whole person, which we don't need that. We're not interested in the whole person. Let's see if content is what we need. Oh, no, we are interested in doc, it looks like. Let's see, no, not get client. What about parent? Or parent. We could do context.parent, or we can just do doc.name. Let's use doc.name. I think we should use doc here. So we'll say that we want to return. Let's see. Let's make sure hello world popped in. Yep, hello world did pop in. And it says that slug is already in use because I think we have a post that or maybe a tag. We named something hello world already, I think. Let's see if we have a slug. Yeah, we have the slug hello world in use already, right? So if we were to just go back in here and change this to 1, that validation is passed now, right? So what we want to say is that when we are here, let's go back over to our IDE. We want to say that this return is a little more clever, right? We want to say that it's going to use the I think we want to use, we can use either one. It doesn't matter for us, right? We can use either one of those. It really doesn't matter. So let's just use the doc.name, right, to declare our name. So we'll create a, whoa, the bottom of the page for some. Okay. So we'll create a, we'll say let name equals doc.name. Okay. And then what we'll do, actually we'll say name is doc.name. Let's think about this. So this won't be available until it's, so let's see how to do availability. I think there are some tips in the doc around how to make sure that something is available before you start assigning it. And I think that would be here, right? So we would say, oh, what's up? Nice. I can see this on my phone pretty good. Oh, I'm glad, man. I'm glad. He said he can see it on mobile pretty well, so that's important. Make sure he can see that. All right. So we are, let's go ahead and do this though. I think the way to do it is kind of to steal this, right? This is a ternary if statement. And what they're saying is, as long as context.dataset is equal to production, then I want to start defining some of this other stuff. So they're using context to define one thing, and then they're using the doc itself to define other things. One thing I did notice here is for them to pull the title, they're using context. So we're going to use context here, okay, instead of doc. And what we'll do is we'll say as long as context dot, let's go back to our code, and we are dealing with the name, right? So we'll say as long as, we won't say doc.name, say context dot parent dot name, right? And I believe you can do this. Actually, let's play around with this for a second. Let's do a little more tinkering. So if we come back over here and look at this first one, I think was doc. That's what we passed for doc. Actually, let's just go back in the IDE. Undo this. Yeah, the first one we passed was doc. Okay, so let's go to the browser and inspect that and see what we're dealing with. So if this is doc, then doc.name is here, right? But if it's context, I need to do the context. I'm in the context of the slug field now, so I would need to do context.parent.name to get the information here. So let's use context like they were using. And wait, was I in the browser there? No, sorry. So what I was referring to there is if we're in the doc, which is this first object here, we would do doc.name, but I have a feeling that they're using context for a reason. So if we look at the second object, which was context, that's what I dumped out, that would be context.parent.name, and I think you get some level of state control, and that's why they're using context. So that's what we're going to use. So let's go back over to the IDE, and let's say that we want to say name is context.parent.name, and we want to see what this equates to if we add our question marks here. Let's console log name now. Okay, and this is throwing an error because parent doesn't have a name field, I guess. And I need to figure out how to get rid of that compile error. That's not going to be pretty to see a red line under that. But let's just refresh this and see if we can start from here. Okay, so we have hello world 1. If I hit generate, I get my name object. So that's actually right. This is good. I'm okay with this. So not entirely sure how to silence this error. Maybe it requires some kind of if statement. So what I'm going to do is say, I'm going to do this and then that and then this. Oh, that's not good. So on type slug parent name doesn't exist, but in here, context parent title. All right, let's see if title. Actually, let's see if title's available to us. Let's go back to our instance, and let's go back to the IDE. What we'll do is we'll change this back to what we had before, the console logs, and we'll see if in that context if title is available to us. Maybe that's like a universal object reference in Slug. We'll see here in a second. So I think all we need to do is try and generate. Well, it already ran, but let's try and generate. And if we look at context, which is the second thing, no, there's no title here either. No title here. So let's go back to the docs and kind of see if they are somehow avoiding this error. So they are using the doc for this. It's also possible to provide a source function that we call with argument thing, the whole document, and a second containing the context object. So function options. Blah, blah. So yeah, so I'm kind of on the fence now. Let's see what happens if we use doc. All right, so let's go back over to our IDE. Let's see what happens if we do let name equals doc.name. And that's error free, right? So we'll use that. I think that's a better way to go. And then what we can do is we can say here, we'll do backticks. We'll say $, if name exists, then we'll do name dot first. Else, but now first. Yeah, I got to figure out how to do these silence these issues, or just nothing. All right, so let's just see if that works. Now if I go back over to the browser and I'll refresh this, we've been some issues with that, so I'll refresh this, and now if I generate this I should get combo. Yep, exactly, right? So now this is pretty easy. From here just need to go to the IDE. We are doing a check to see if name exists, but we'll do a further check to say name dot first, and then we'll concatenate this string. So we'll do plus, this is just JavaScript syntax, plus, and we'll do a dash, say plus name question mark dot last. And it's complaining that these don't exist. And I'm not entirely sure how to fix that, but I am a stickler on this, so I do want to know how to solve that. So let's do, I think that's good for now. And I don't even think we need that, right? If we go back to the browser, the documentation shows that they are doing this directly, right? Where they have an if statement or a ternary followed by what string they want to return. And we know we always want to return something. Right, so if I would say if, let's say if name doesn't exist, we don't even need to do that. Let's be real, right? We don't even need to do that because name is a required field. So I think that we can get away with just doing this because this is state now, so sometimes name won't exist. But we don't need to do any other logic. We can just do this now, I think. So I'll do doc.name. Okay, and then let's do that. Okay, cool. So now we're saying, oh, but it found that somehow? Oh, .name. Okay, so that's really weird that this is erroring out. I may just be missing something here, but it's like a type error too. So I still don't know how to silence those yet in React. I'm still learning how to deal with those, but let's go back to our browser. Oh wait, I just realized I wasn't on the IDE. Let me explain that one more time. So if we go back, but where we left off here in the IDE, this was the code, right? We were just console logging those. Then I was gonna define the name object and leverage ES6 syntax to print that string, right? Return that string. But then I realized, well, since this is just a React component, since this is just an ES6 anonymous function that expects a string to be returned, I don't need any of this then, right? I can just do all of this logic right here that I'm passing in a return statement. I can just do all of that immediately after this, right? So I could say that, okay? And if we're saying that we know a string needs to be returned, I can just say that even, right? Which is, I'm going to do doc.name. If doc.name exists, then I want to do doc.name.first plus doc dot name, right? Question mark. And let's see if we. So if doc exists, then try .name. If .name exists, then try first, etc., etc. I don't need to do doc.name though because we already tested for that in the previous statement. So I can probably just do this. And if my document has data and name is being passed, now let's go test that in the browser. Okay, I'll just go ahead and hit refresh on that. I have something going on in my app that's stopping me from being able to edit any of this stuff. Let me do one thing too. Okay. Better. All right, and then I should probably do that for the browser IDE as well. Okay. All right, and then fixing this stream display right now. Looks fine. All right. So now if we come back to the browser, which we are, if we hit generate now I have combo junkie. If I change this to 111 and in, now we have that, right? So that's good. I think that's okay. I do want to figure out how to fix this. Property first does not exist on type unknown. I'm gonna try and fix this error. Does not exist on type, and then I'll say ECMAScript. That's what this is. This is ES6. Oh, that's TypeScript. Okay. See, but yeah, it's not telling me how to solve it. Not a class issue either. Yeah. That is really odd that they are calling that an error, though. I really don't like to see that. This dot first error and dot last error. I really don't like to see that, but that really just means that doc is not declaring this as a like it needs to somehow be any, or I need to be able to say that it's possible that this can be any, but it's not allowing me to do that. And now a person is always going to have an error. I hate that. Back to the browser. I'm gonna do a little bit of research here to see if I can get rid of that, but But I mean, what would the? I don't even know what the object would be here. This is a tricky one because I don't want my compiler to have errors that I'm just like, all right, well, I know I'll have to deal with that. Like, I don't like those types of errors. And I feel like if you are pushing out production code, that you should figure out a way to get rid of any compilation errors, because the larger your code base gets, the harder it is to just say you'll deal with these compilation errors that are red herrings, right? Imagine you have a code base that's massive and there are some legitimate errors, but along the way of developing, you've decided that when you see these red herring errors, you're just not going to do anything about them. But now you don't know which ones are which, right? It's like a bowl of popcorn. You could have some items in there that are legitimately issues or problematic, but now you have to say, well, these other ones that are not legitimately issues, you don't have to worry about those. So if you run into a real problem that's bringing down your site, you have all these mixes and matches, well, you have to kind of go through all of them now, right? So it's best if you can get rid of them altogether. But it looks like this is a common issue in TypeScript, right? Where you just don't know some of these types that may or may not exist. Let's see, yeah, let's look for the good point. So if I do, I like that. I like the as any. So is that what they mean? Oh wait, no, it's like yeah, I actually do like that. So here, what we're gonna do is we are actually gonna put this back in. I don't need this. We're gonna put this back in a anonymous function that returns something. But before I return my string, or let's say my string, I am gonna do a constant that says let name equal doc.name, and I'm gonna say that it can be as any. Okay, because now what it looks like this is allowing me to do is in here, now I can say name question mark name dot first and not have to worry about any kind of compilation errors, which is good, right? Otherwise blank, right? If name doesn't exist, I want to use something else. I want to use I don't need to do this though. Name will always exist, but hang on. Let's say if name doesn't exist, I want my slug to be named after what? What else is gonna always exist? I don't think anything always exists. Let's go back over to the IDE. Let me show you guys what I just did. So basically, what I found out, some reading through those docs on the web, is that you can actually say that parts of your object are to be defined as any, right? Meaning like it can be whatever type, it can have whatever properties, it can be anything. So what you do is you surround that section with parentheses and say as any, and now you'll notice that error drops, right? Because it's saying that the object here that I'm going to say has a first property or a last property, like a dot first or a dot last. It's any object. So you don't know as an IDE whether this is correct or not. And in order to clean this up a bit, I'm going to take it out of a single line declaration and I'm going to put it in a return statement, right? So I'm going to say, I am going to do my let name equals doc.name, but instead of just doing doc.name, I'm going to do as any. Right? So now when I go down to my return statement, I can do if name exists, then do name.first without having to worry about getting an error under that first. Right? And then I'll say concatenate this with a dash last, right? So name.last, and that also won't break. And then we'll say otherwise if this, sorry, I don't have my plus here. We'll say otherwise if this doesn't exist, I just want to default to a empty string. Right? Because we know that our name content, our person content type actually requires a name in order for you to even save that. So the only time this can be true is if you haven't added a first or last name yet. But eventually you will. So we're okay with the slug field being empty until you solve those, right? So now we have no errors in our compilation. And if we go back to the web, oh, that's so gratifying to see. Okay, if we go back to the web, we can see now if we hit generate, there we go, right? We have our slug. If I actually remove first name, not only do I get an error here, but if I try and generate, it just goes undefined because last does exist. So actually, let's go back over to our code, right? We need to actually account for the idea that name.first and name.last has to exist in order for me to do. Otherwise, if even one of these are not populated, I want the whole string to be null. I don't want to see anything. Let's go back to the browser. Okay. And now if I hit generate, we can see that that field just clears out. But if I add something here and hit generate, now it uses those two in combination, right? So if I do combo.junky, we can see it does combo junky, right? And it auto generates, so I'll go ahead and save that. So we should be good now to move on to the next one. I want to confirm that isUnique is working as expected. As a matter of fact, I want to add that to the AC here. So I'll say there's an AC5 that requires, let's say, the slug or the person or tag content type has to be unique. Okay, so we'll make this uppercase P. These are proper nouns now. Uppercase T. Has to be unique, right? So it has to be, I can't use the same one twice. So let's go through that, right? Let's see if I create a new person. Let's see if I can use combo junky again, which I know I'll be able to, but we'll just test that out. We have to see why I'm choking like this too. I think that it's something to do with the way I have this set up, but we'll see. Let's do combo L junky. Okay. And now for my slug, if I hit generate, I can do that again, but it says the slug is already in use, which is good, right? So what we want to do is we want to add this ability. No, that's okay. Now if I add one there, yeah. So it's going to be up to our publishers to make that unique. I think that's enough. Okay, so we'll move on now to the, we'll go ahead and discard this. Let's delete that. And we'll move on to the tag content type. So I'll go back to our IDE. And now that we're done with person, can get rid of that. And let's move on to the tag. And we know that under title is normally where a slug goes. We'll put it here. So we'll say slug. And then let's not be super critical about this, right? Let's go ahead and I wonder, can I just, let's see if that works. I want to see if I can get away with only passing one parameter here for doc. And if I go ahead and open that and then click on slug generate, yep, it works. If I change this to 1, yeah, that works. Okay, so what we'll do is we will leverage this, right? We'll go ahead and publish that now. And we will say that the code here for slug can be the exact same for tag. And the only thing we need to change now is this name, right? So we wanted to use title instead of name. So what we'll do is we'll say, I don't even think we need the as any this time because these are all, title is a part of the first layer of the doc, right? So if doc title exists, use doc title. I think title is required. So if it doesn't exist, we'll just make it an anonymous, make it empty. And this is complaining about something. So this needs to be return a string. So we're going to need to do this. Actually, what we need to do is different, right? We need to actually use a string first out of the box, and then we'll say doc.title question mark doc.title otherwise empty. And now this is wrong. This is bad because we haven't imported that. Go back to tag and grab that. We don't need the. Okay, and now that error has way, assuming that right. So back to slug, the error's gone. So now let's see actually if we can go back to the way not to encapsulate those in string. Yeah, no, we can't do it like that. Okay, cool. So we have to return at least a string type. Can't just use doc.title here. So let's go ahead and test that. We'll refresh this. There was an error, compilation error. I think that's something to do. Is being, yeah, I need to understand what this error is really. I haven't dug it yet, but I imagine that has something to do with our problem here. So now we'll go to fighting games. We'll put a slug in here, publish that. That looks good. We'll just make sure we update all of our content to have the slug field populated. 5, that. And now we have slugs in all of these. And technically our ticket, whoops, hang on, let me do that one more browser. What I was doing was I was in tags and I just made sure that each of these individual tags had a populated slug field. So when we went here to PlayStation 5, we just hit generate and it generated this PlayStation-5. We went to fighting games. Yeah, see, something's off there. Oh, it's in the validate URL link true. Gotta fix that. Go here. Yeah, we went to fighting games and we hit generate. Like that worked, and then we go to Mortal Kombat 1, and now it chokes up. Five. Yeah, we don't get any other issues, right? So it's here. Something's going wrong here that's causing our code to choke up, and I think that we need to solve that because that's going to become pretty annoying to deal with. If you would like automatic filtering on props, you can opt into that behavior via this guy, or consider using. So let's do this. It looks like an unknown prop intent is being dom. Let's just look for this right now. See if ES6 teaches us how to fix this or not. So what is ours complaining about? Ours was complaining about intent. Right? It was something about the prop intent. So let's just search our code base. So it would be something in schemas maybe. Let's go back to the IDE and we're going to search for intent. We're going to say actually search in all files. No results found. What? Go to the desk if we did anything there. So we're not doing anything with the desk, but it does look like we set up a desk to be used. We're not doing anything with it. Wait, if we aren't doing it, then why is this? Okay. And what we'll do is we'll kill this and restart the dev server. Let's open it. Open up our dev tools, go over to the studio. Let's see if we're still getting that error when we go over to the, yeah, we're still getting it. So I'm guessing. I mean, if I had to guess, this has something to do with. But let's see. Let's just get rid of some stuff and see what we're dealing with. Let's just look at the index. And what I'll do is I'll get rid of all of those. There are custom editions. I'll get rid of those. We'll see if we're still getting this error, right? So let's get rid of this. Yeah, it's still happening. But it's a different error. Pain return no child. But something about document type list. Big. Okay, so they didn't solve it here. Do what Sanity said to do. So are we not defining a child then? Problem if the IDE go here. Yeah, there's no child defined. Back to the browser, they say that it's s.last item title child, and then inside a child you have your doc list. Okay, so list item document. Okay. This is a little tricky. I'm not entirely sure what. But if I go to S tool, yeah. So maybe I need. All right. So I'm gonna copy something from a helper library that I know of. And I'm just gonna pop this in there. Okay, so now we have a desk. I'll get rid of this. Keep structure. And the root is content. This is gonna be element of PQRST. So this is gonna be people. Schema type is gonna be person. Child document list is gonna be people, and anything where type is person. And then this is going to be tags. Anything tag. Also going to be tags and type equal tag. Okay, so let's see if that actually works. I'll go ahead and put structure in here. So let's go to our identity config. Here, I want to do structure. comma, object, and then up here, I want to include my let's see, okay, maybe here, I'll just do my structure. Now that error should go away, which now it has. Now let's see if that solved our, no. Maybe we just have to define it this way. I'm not entirely sure. If I refresh now we have a different error. Oh, I know what I need to do though. Person's not in schema. How's that? Back to the IDE. Under content, I have a schema type of person I have defined. Go into text. Oh yeah, I got rid of it here. Yeah, let's put our stuff back. Now if I go back, all right, so that's done. And am I getting the error? Go ahead and refresh this. Wait, going. Now we have errors. Oh, API version. Let's see what they docs. I see. Okay, so where do we get our API version? Docs. So wait, we need to see how to find the version key here. Okay, so every query call uses that. So what we can do is go into the network tab, and we should be able to find the one class, right? There we go. Okay, so now if I copy that, I'll bring this. Actually, let me show you guys what I just found in the browser. So I went over to the error. Sanity's awesome for this. They have this URL in every error message. And I see that what they're complaining about now is that we don't have a version number on these. And they expect something like this. So in order to see the version number, when I look through it, I go to this URL and they say, well, the version number isn't all of our requests. So you can look through our requests to find it. So I go back to the browser and look at my network tab where my XHR requests fire off. This is anything that does a call to sanity. And sure enough, one of these has that version number in it. So I'm gonna assume that that is the version number that we are currently using. Because remember, we're on that next sanity build. So this is probably just where they were with it. But that's probably not the latest one, right? We probably want to say that our API version is whatever the latest is. So if we do yeah, see that's the thing though. I don't want to use the wrong version ID. Their clients here. Client. Yeah. Let's see. I'm looking in the code right now. They have version called out and want to see. Back over here to the docs. See where they want us to add it. I can't. Yeah, in the document.list, they want us API. So let's just do that for now. Let's just go back to the IDE. Let's go into our desk structure, and it looks like this needs to be added right under the document list. So under here, I guess. Add it. So let's see if this works right now. I'm just going to test this to see if it gets rid of this error, and then we'll switch it to the right version afterwards. So refresh this. And sure enough, it does, right? We no longer have that big warning. Oh, no, that's not console. We do still have it. We do still have it. So, yeah, now it's under tag. So let's actually get the right version this time. So 21.06.07. 7, yeah. Package. That will come back over to our IDE. So here, let me show you guys what I was just doing. I was on the browser, and I wanted to see if we were still getting these errors, which we are. But now they've moved down to the tag, meaning that I have supplied the right fix for the error we were seeing with person. So now what we're going to do is go to the network tab and just confirm that the tag that we need, the API version number, is this. I just looked through a few of these. I said 2021.06.07. And then as we come up, see another instance of the same tag. So that is assumed that that is the version that we need. So I'll come back here where we have this version ID. I'll put in the one that we're using. And then under this document.list, I'll add this here, assuming this was the general problem. So I'll go back to our IDE, go under console, and we are still getting errors. Let's see what they are now, though. This is still the no child pain error. So I'm going to go into here, and it's saying that there is a place where I define something, but I don't define a child for it. So specifically a list item, which is here, and use the one. Okay, if you intentionally don't want to return any child, define child or. Okay, so let's see where this is complaining. If it's about post, which post is no longer in here, right? Well, see what is both of these have content, right? They should be post is gone now, so then perhaps it's somewhere in the index, not the index, right? There preview. So yeah, this is the document node, which I want to keep this, but let's just get rid of it for now and see if that gets rid of our oh, okay. All right. Save this, and let's see if at least we get rid of our. Oh yeah, so it's the. Okay, no. Cloud components. It looks like. And do we get some kind of? See if we get some kind of help from them how to fix it. I'm not seeing one. I'm not seeing any help on how to fix this one. So the next question is, if we get rid of everything custom that we've done, does that solve the issue? So let's get rid of all of this now. Okay, let's get rid of all of this. If page, that's still an error. If we go to post, so let's just do this. Let's go to our index, and let's say that schema has nothing. Okay. All right, let's just refresh that and see if we get the error. It would do, right? We do still get it. I need to figure out how to get this. This is a studio specific error. Oh, payment. Child. Let's do sanity. Well, they are saying that this is the fix, right? Whenever document list, we don't have anything in here though. So how could that be the problem? I guess what we could do is just say that all of this. Okay? Save that and see if that solves it. Because it could be something like it's out of our control, just a part of this. That's still a problem. Or schema from schemas. Okay, so here, let's do this. Studio getting popped in. So it could be something to do with this. Let's do this. Let's comment this out for now. Okay. Let's see if that's not going to load anything. Let's see if we get that error. Yeah, so it has something to do with these components. Let's see which one is the problem. So it might be Next Studio. Yep, it's Next Studio. Oh, that's fine. So Next Studio is the issue. And we need to find out what about Next Studio is causing the problem. And to be specific, it's saying that there's no child. And the docs say that we need these children. That's not, we know that's not the problem. This, okay. This again. That's the document list. IO here. No, wait, hang on. Before we do that, let's look at some general. Yeah, because pay and return no child. We know that that is the. This is what sanity is giving us back, but let's see what this is. Unresolved pain. Context, yeah. So. I mean, it's not an error. We can literally skip it. As it's not really throwing an error per se, but I'd like to get this figured out. Honestly, I think this has something to do with what we're seeing. But all right, I won't deal with it right now. I really don't want to spend too much time on that. So let's start getting these things back in place. Okay. Yeah, that was our structure. So we're there. Let's go ahead and. Yep, couldn't find person and back. Okay, and now everything's loading too on update, which is phenomenal. And this is complaining about something else. Let's get rid of this last of well and add before. Let's see what we're doing here. Yeah, I think we're good there as well. I'm gonna get rid of this too, guys. Don't know if we need that anymore. For the tags, I think we're fine here. I do think there's something else going on the browser. Go to browser. Everything is loading now when I refresh the when I click on one of the elements or change the code, the actual site is loading, which gives me hope. So if I click this PlayStation 5, no errors show up, just this warning, which I'm going to silence this actually. I'm going to hide this specific message. I think it's moot, but We can see that's working as we would expect. Now if I click on people, instead of it just spinning, I get the person and we get our name here. If I go update the code, so going back to the IDE, yo, what's good, Pyro? What's up, dude? Oh man, I might have missed him. Oh man, I might have missed my boy Pyro there. All right. If I go into one of these, let's go into not post, but let's go into what we got here? What we got here? We got something going on. We got something going on. Something happening on the stream right now. I don't know what it is. I can't see it. But somebody blowing minds right now. Let's see. Let me head over to Twitch real quick and see what's going on. Minds getting blown. You know, I appreciate the love. Whatever that was. Whatever that was. Thank you. Oh man, I gotta set this up a little better so I can see what's going on in the chat, man. Thanks for all y'all to support though. Support. I love it. Love it. All right, so what we're gonna make sure of though is that if we do change some of this code, can we confirm that the updates will happen automatically? So if I come over to my schemas, I'll go to tag, and let's just say, hey, whatever, we'll change tag to tags W. All right. I'm using Alt right now because I'm using Mac, but all right, and now instead of it just loading forever, does it automatically update? Does it automatically update? And no, it still just loads forever. This error is doing something. I don't know what it is yet, but something's preventing my changes from automatically. Oh no, never mind. That didn't update anyway, so something else is off there. That's good. That's good that didn't work. Let's see, that update worked, but why didn't that work? Why didn't tags go to tag? Right, that should have updated this label. Oh wait, no, that won't work anymore, right? This is no longer what's driving that display, right? Now we have a desk tool, but it's going to be here. This is where we would expect to see a bunch of the word tag, and I have a error here, so don't need that. Right, there we go, and there's tags. But even still, we're not seeing the document load. If I click this, yeah, something still looks oh, 4 months up. What? I didn't know you were subscribed, Var. What's up? Let's go. Pyro, I didn't know you were subscribed, bro. Let's go. I didn't know you were subbed, man. All right, so that's still broken though, right? You know what I think? I think we using a dated version of this tool. Like, I think the Sanity library that we got right now is dated. Let me see something real quick. I'm about to try and update that. Let me see something real quick. So if I do update Sanity npm, right? Let's see. So there's Sanity, right? All right, so it's Sanity at latest. I mean, I might just do this myself, right? But let's see what version of Sanity this puts us on. So if we go to package.json, Sanity client is on Sanity's on 3.2. Where are they? Are they on 3.2, bro? Oh no, they're on 3.23. Damn, 3.23. So if I do npm update Sanity, yeah, how did that work? Up to date, audit 8. Okay, npm audit fix. All right, and then let's do all of them, right? Let's just do all of them. So let's do npm update client up to date. Nope, that's all good. What about the demo? Get all this. If I may, what exactly are you constructing? That's a great question, my brother. That's a great question. What am I constructing? So what we're doing right now is we are creating everything required to maintain ourselves a video gaming website. So in order to do that, we need three things, right? When you think about how to maintain a website, there's three things that's involved. Number one, you need a content management system, some place to store all of your articles, photos, people, like the person content, like anything that can show up on a site like IGN, right? So if you look at a story like this story has people like Charlie. It has stories like the one we just clicked on. It has tags like Dark Knight, right? So if I want to show every story that's about the Dark Knight, I need a way to create that content and separate it. So that's the content management system. You also need a way to deliver your front end. So what we see visually right now, that's your front end. You need a way to deliver that. So that's what we're going to use NextJS for. That's like these React-based components that are really fast, really lightweight, that allow you to say things like whenever somebody clicks on a story from this homepage, it takes them to the story template that looks like this, right? Where you have a tag section at the top, your title, your subtitle, your people, the story body, etc. So, and then finally, you need a way to say that all the work that we're doing here in our local environment, you need a way to push that out to the world, right? Or to submit it to production. And that's a kind of a DevOps platform task, and we're going to use Vercel to do that. So in the end, we'll have the ability to create gaming articles and submit them or save them, which are in turn going to like push those articles out to a template that will look like however we want, right? That'll kind of look like this. So that's how the site's going to be powered. You'll have a splash page or a landing page like this. You click on one of the items, it'll take you to a story template that looks something like this, and then you can peruse through the story, the photo gallery, all the different bits and pieces. And I'm doing all this in an effort to learn some of these more modern technologies that are recently blazing through the scenes. So I'm trying to use this as like a learning vehicle for myself and hopefully other people. So the part I'm on right now at this exact moment is it's kind of a tangential stage that I'm in, to be honest. I ran into an issue where something that I expected to see happening on the front end wasn't happening. So just to give you a sorry, not on the front end, but in the CMS wasn't happening. So to give you a example, and let me just run this last update command. To give you an example, I'll do npm run dev. I'm gonna stand up the server, the local web server. And if we go over to the browser, you'll see that I am on my local host here. No one can access this but my computer. And then I'm going to go over to our studio and I'll open our developer tools. And when this loads, what's been happening is this big blob of warning. This is a warning. Like it's saying that something is not working. Okay. It's not telling me what's not working, but it's telling me something here isn't working. And I believe that it's causing some of my other features to not update whenever I make an update. So what should be happening right now, Pyro, is when I do something like this, like if I go into my desk and I say that instead of tag SSSS like we see here, I want this to just be tags, right? So I'll get rid of all that. The moment I hit save right here, this should update and this should show everything instantly, which we just saw. That time it worked. But sometimes what I've been seeing is that when I save this and update, that time it worked too. So maybe my fix that I just did a moment ago worked. But what I was seeing though is that sometimes these weren't updating. It would just load forever. It would just say loading, loading, loading for a million years. But it looks like I might have just solved that. Yo, maybe y'all being on the call just helped me fix that. So let me do this. No, I can't do that. Let's do a different change. Let's do actually let's go here. Let's change the tag to circle user. This is one of the icons you can use. Let's see if we change this now and save it. Damn, that's what's up. So I think we are out of that. Oh, nope, we still have an issue. So this is the problem. We're here. This is the problem. This is exactly what we're trying to solve. It might be this validate URL feature. So this is the problem. You see how it's not loading my preview? It's just frozen. So what part? Yeah, oh damn. It just ain't right. Not what it should be. Exactly, yeah. Loading loop. Yeah, super old school, right? So I think this may have something to do with this validation thing because it just says custom validator at slug has taken more time to load. So what I want to do now is, I don't have a validation rule there, but I do have a validator somewhere, which is here. This is where my other validator is. what did I have open? Oh, that was a person, so it won't be in here. It'll be in here. So it's saying that one of my validation rules might be causing this issue. And what I can do to test that is, here it is. This is my custom rule. So what I can do, yeah, what I can do is say, forget that. I will just trust the system. Whoops. I'll just trust that the system is doing its validation correctly already. And I'll get rid of my custom addition here. Right? So I'll just say that. Yeah, there we go. So now I'm doing a rule and I'm saying this field is required, but now it no longer has to deal with my my own little validation. And I'll also get rid of this. Well, maybe I don't know if I'll get rid of that one. But let's just refresh. Let's hard refresh. Right? So we should be in a person now, right? Which is good. Let's now go back and update that field again. So I think last time we updated an icon. Let's just change this back to no, let's go to tag again and change that tag back to tag, right? So here, change that icon back to tag, save, and go back. And no, we're still in some sort of a loop here. Yeah, something here is not working, and I have a strong feeling it has to do with this. But again, I don't want this to go. If you would like automatic filtering of unknown props, you can opt into the behavior viewer. Should forward props. Let me see if this works, because I know that it was the preview system causing the error. So let me just see if this works. No, it was in here. Where was it? Dang it, where did I see it? I had it open at some point. Wasn't here. Wasn't here. Wasn't here. Here. It was here. So let's do this. And then the should forward props were. Oh no, that was just in the docs, right? So let's find out what library I need to import for this. So I would have to have I would have to add that to the Next Studio component. I don't know if I even have access to that. Yeah, that's actually in their system. I don't have access to add this. I don't, man, I really don't gloss over this issue. This becomes such a burden. This is an experimental API version. Change without warning. They have serious. Let's see. I think this also has something to do with it, guys, where I have a older version of the API because I'm using that like starter template, and I probably should just start my Sanity IO from scratch. Yeah, let's just do that. Let's do that real quick. Let me see something. I think that we can just start from scratch, and we should be able to port it right over. So let's do get started, and then let's do. Oh, we definitely don't want to start from a template. Yeah, this is the type of stuff that really gets on my nerves. I don't know how to do that. So let's do this. I'll go back to the IDE. What we'll do is we're gonna kill this. We're gonna do code. Actually, let's do this. Let's do make dir dot slash, and what we'll do is we'll say sanity latest. That's gonna be the directory we make, and then we'll do code dot slash sanity latest. And then now that this is open, you guys won't see that, but let me make sure you guys can. So where? Okay, so this is our sanity latest. I'll go ahead and open that, and then we'll go to the terminal, and we'll just type in what they tell us we need to type. Which okay. All right, so this is how we're supposed to be able to create our own little sanity instance. And what I want to do is I want to use their sanity package, but put our next and well, we don't even have NextJS, right? We just have sanity, and maybe that's how we should have started. Dang it, should have probably started like that. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. I do want to use TypeScript. So interesting. Yeah, npm. I think we're gonna have to go back and do this. I think we're gonna have to go back and start from a clean sanity slate, and then leverage React along the way. You know what I mean? Like then install React. I mean not React, but Next.js along the way. Like right now, what we've been doing is we've been leaning on this starter template they made me. So like they give people who are just starting out, they give them a starter template that's like if you go to developers and then you go to get started, right here, this thing on the right, this thing we're gonna see on the right. Hang on, let's go back to the yeah, here it is. Get started with sanity. This right here, these starter templates. I don't know how old this document is. So we started from this. Let's see when this was last updated. Yeah, I don't even know. They don't even tell you. So who knows when this package actually came out? Like I really don't know, and I don't want to chance the work that we're doing not working by it being something that we did or just something that is just outdated and us wasting our time with it. So we're gonna use their brand new latest and greatest. And then yeah, so what we're gonna do, let's fire back up the IDE. Sanity's now enabled. We're gonna do a npm run dev. I'm also gonna look at their config. Yeah, this even looks different. Look how cool this looks now. This even looks way different, right? Like, this looks so much different. And they have desk tool here. I could just put structure here and add my desk here. Schemas that all they have is the index. They don't have any schema types. This is a truly clean slate project. Now if I go over to my local host 333, this is only going to be the studio now. There's no like go over to / whatever. Let's see. Access should kind of need the following. Wait, what? What was that error? Yeah, but how do I do that? What are they saying I need to do? So hang on, maybe they teach me how to do it here. Oh. That's something you do in the Sanity UI itself. That's fine. You have to whitelist your local development server. But look at that. No errors, right? It's a clean slate. So now if we come over here, right? And let's say we go grab our let's grab our desk. Well, first let's just configure everything, right? So go into this index.ts. Yeah, dude, I'm thinking this is going to be a lot more a lot easier to deal with. So hang on, we are not there, we're here. So schema types, are they adding schema types here? Yeah, schema types is being added. So if we were to Hang on. One thing I need to figure out is what they are doing with just schema. Yeah, this is kind of crazy. Also, desk tool has the. Oh yeah, if I do that. So before I go there, though, let me check this out. Yeah, that's really all they're doing. Yeah. So if I go to our old, all right. So here's where we are, and what I want to do here is I want to add the structure here that this should have our. This should have our. We should import that structure object. So if I go. Here. There we go. Oh, that's not it either. Where is it? Oh, that's the. Oh, I see. I see what it's gonna be. This. Now, if I add structure, and then I need the desk directory. I don't even need these API versions, I bet, but we'll just add them. Paste this in here. Now, so if I do, actually, I need to cancel that. So npm install, and then do side React. That'll get rid of this error here because now that package will be available. Yep, there we go. So then now npm dev, and then inside of this structure, not using, I don't even need, but I can probably get rid of the problem anymore. And then in here, no, not in here. Yeah, because in here we're saying structure has everything you. So let's paste that out so it's obvious. And then now in here, under. That won't be there, but I think we already took care of the desk. Now we need to take care of schema types, which are in my index, and let's go grab those files that we've already built. So yeah, it's in here. So here is person and tag, shared element. Grab all of those, copy these, dump them in environment, which is in schema. Oh, no, not that one. Schema, we'll do paste. We have person. We have person also broken because of things. So that's gonna be in source. Oh, this doesn't even have source. So funny. Fields are actually just go out one, right? So now we go out one. Let's see what the last error is. It's type. So it implicitly has an any type. So wait, where's my choose network? Wait, no, that's gonna be in here. Yeah, so choose social icon. There we go. It's implied that it can be anything. That's fine. So now that's error free. Go here. I think this is so right now. And then we have one more error in here. Bug any care context any. Right, there's that. And then what else do we need to do? So we still need to wire this up to the index. Let's go do that. So let's do. As far as I can tell, I don't need to do that anymore. Like, oh, yeah, it looks like all you have to do is define your schema types. So I'm gonna grab this, and here I am. So go here. I don't have story anymore. Is yeah, person is in the current directory. Oh, so I need to export this as a const now. Export const person equals define type. Yep, so there we go. That works. For tag, I need to do export const tag equals. Okay, and now in here, that fixes this one. Shared fields. I called it shared elements. So I should be able to do shared elements. And a lot of these don't exist. It's actually in shared elements. Let's go grab those. Let's just do import all. So import, I do that. Let's do all as elements. Yep, okay, cool. So that works. So now here, the only thing I know for a fact I want is that in tag, right? And I still need tag here. All right, and that should do it. What's my error here? Dot. Okay, and now a page reload just kicked off. There's no errors. Let's see what our studio looks like. So we do have another error where it's saying that the person document fields image element. So let's go over to our IDE and investigate what they could be complaining about there. So person document image element, unknown type image element. So if I had to guess, that's because shared element. Oh, okay. So that has to be, basically that's part of my schema now. So I have to actually export shared elements as well. So if I do image element, shared elements, and then now should be able to pass this. And now that error should be gone. Go to the browser now. All right, so they're still complaining about the API version being required. So let's put that back into place. So wait, let's first see what version of the API we're running. Let's go to the network tab. Wait, how are we back here all over again? We're back to the same API version. That's really, really disheartening, but that's okay. Let's just at least see if we were right about this. We're gonna be here. We're gonna say side of the list items, maybe. Hang on, let me just where this has to go. After the title, somewhere above in the document. Perfect. Right, here we go. So document. That, and then document links or tags. Okay. Right, so now we go back to our desk. So no errors, which is good. Let's try and make a person. Okay, let's do combo. Bug, that works. So far, everything's working. What is this complaining about? Right, so this is saying that the way we built that schema, I'm going to start closing some of these other windows because they're kind of confusing me. We have so many IDEs open. So this is the one that we really care about. And this is saying that in our person content type, in the preview, we have some logic in there that assumes something's going to exist and it doesn't. So that's probably this media, right? So we need to say, basically, if this exists, let's use it. Otherwise, oh. Or that, maybe? Yeah, there we go. All right, so let's see if we still get the same error. Not only do we not get the same error, it looks like everything loaded. Oh, we do get the same error, though. Let's see. Yeah, reading photo. So it says, yeah, reading photo. So let's do this. I think that's how you solve that. So yeah, but it does look like the studio's working, though. Looks like the studio's doing a better job. But there are some things here that look like they are missing, for sure. Like, this looks like an older version of the studio. Like, it's really bare bones right now. So I probably just have some things that I need to add, like the vision board inside of this config here. No, the vision tool's here. Yeah, it looks like API version was defined. Port that from libsanity API. So yeah, so in the environment variable. I see where it is now. It's so annoying. Alright, let me last thing. Alright. Before I call it, let me check one thing. I want to see package.json, what version of sanity they gave me. Yeah, 3.23. So this is the latest. This is way later than what we had before, for sure. So I think I am going to keep this. I think that our studio definitely needs some TLC, though. Like, that looks really bad. This looks, it just looks like it's not fully fleshed out, really. And maybe that comes from the fact that I had a studio page before. Yeah, so I'm not gonna, yeah, I'm definitely gonna use this new one, this more bare bones one. And we'll just start porting everything over. Yeah, so let's upload our image. Up. Go combo junkie, image it, selfie, that guy. That's so funny. Well, at least we did the we finished that ticket. I think that's what's most important. Yeah, see this I don't even have control over. Facebook. So we got our Facebook icon. Let's make sure we have the other ones. Let's random one like two. not sure. Yeah, okay, so that works. So I'll go ahead and publish this. I need to find out from the Sanity folks which one of these are the actual latest version. But this is working way better than it was on the other version. So I do feel like that was my problem, is that I had a dated version of their software that they were not keeping up with anymore, and that was causing some weird issues. So I'm not going to worry about this too much. Yep, so there's that. And then for tags, let's go ahead and go to our desk and change that back to, I'm in the IDE right now, but I'm just looking at the stream to see that updates automatically. Yeah, and it did. We see it's just tag and people instead of tag with a bunch of S's, so that's good. So let's just confirm that we have completed the ticket. We'll make another fighting games tag. Fighting games, the slug is going to be, yep, that looks like it's working. If you lose, you die. That was our slug. So here, let's upload the fighting games logo. And then the alt text was just, whoops, fighting games. And then the caption was some of the best 1v1 fighters to ever existed, all started here. All right, and then a description I'm going to skip. The parent going to be like, you shouldn't be able to select one, just that means that's working. Parents can only be different terms, they can't be themselves, so that's why that doesn't show anything. But I think this solves the ticket, right? So I think what I'm gonna do, and this changes a lot of our other code, but we don't really need the other code, right? The other stuff was for NextJS specifically, and I'm pretty sure we can install NextJS manually when we get to that step, right? Like, I don't think we need to worry about that. So for now, I just want to I'm going to create a bug ticket that says, oh wait, no, that's already working. Yeah, these are already working. I don't even need to do that. So I think we're good to just submit this, right, under the branch we're on. So if I go to get branch, I don't think we checked anything out. We're on main, right? So I'm going to need to do a get fetch, and then I'll do I'll go back to that other one and get that branch name and check this new create. Actually, we'll just go over to GitHub specifically. And it wasn't develop, right? It was this guy. And I need to know how to quickly grab this branch. Yeah, let's go to branches. I guess that'll do. Yeah, add slug field. So it's this one. Now if I go back to our branch, we can do git check out that. It says it didn't find. So the question is, do we even have our code base right now? That's another big question. And we are saying we're about to change almost everything in our code base. Wait, let's do git fetch one more time. Yeah, I don't even see a git directory in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the git directory from the other folder, just so we have that. I'm going to do revealing file explorer, because I basically want to make sure that the git history from that other branch is possible to add to this new one. So I am going to just paste in that git directory. There's a hidden .git directory that I should be able to paste. And like if I do git branch now, it should use that as my current state. You see here we have 49 differences now. And we have a lot of deletions as well. So I'm going to assume that all of these are correct. And I am going to essentially just overwrite my entire repository with this new Sanity repository instead. Okay. How do you like Sanity? I'm shopping around for different CMS right now. We don't see anything but Chrome on stream. Oh crap, no IDE. Sorry about that. How do I like Sanity? That's a really good question. I came from a background of content management systems where everything admin related was done for you out of the box, right? So you can imagine Shopify. You don't have to build the shopping cart interface. You don't have to build the product interface or the search interface. Everything that comes out of the box with Shopify was built for you. It's pretty much handed to you on a silver platter. The same with things like Drupal or WordPress. You don't have to build a form to create content types. You don't have to build the search mechanism to display the content types that you have. Everything's given to you kind of on a silver platter. Whereas Sanity, it's up to you as a developer to first scope out your CMS, and then literally you're on the hook for building everything. So I have found that a little bit of a challenge, kind of balancing the things that I need to do versus what I have come to like expect from a content management system. It's been a bit of a challenge and a little tricky. I think that over the past week alone, and I'm just learning Sanity for the first time, so putting in 3 hours every stream has gotten me to the point where I can stand up a couple of content types. I can do some advanced field work, but it's all on me, right? So that has slowed down the development process quite a bit because there's this huge learning curve that I'm forced in. But I will say the things that you can do in this content management system have been mind-blowing considering where I came from, right? The other systems I used to dabble in. Not only did they do a really good job providing you a toolkit to create things like forms, search mechanisms, etc., but because it's all modern JS React-based content management system, it's lightning fast. Developing in it and learning it is lightning fast, both of them. So I will say it, as much as I hate to admit this, even though those other content management systems gave me a lot out of the box, Sanity is by far superior to the other ones. My client comes from Wix, and they honestly had a decent CMS, trying to find something close to it, and then add in what I need. Yeah, if you're looking at the Wix space, I used to love Wix, by the way, back in the day. If you're looking at something to replace Wix, Sanity can easily do that, and not just do it, but do it a lot more efficiently than Wix did it. However, you have to take into consideration that you're not just on the hook for migrating the site data, for standing up the templates, driving the front end, giving them some of the tools they used to have. You are also now on the hook for delivering them a content management system that reminds them of the things they used to be able to do in Wix. Right? So I would say, as a piece of advice, 1000% of your upfront time should be spent scoping out what exactly they expect from, like what exactly your client expects from a content management system experience. If you don't do that, you get into a place where you are looking at so many bells and whistles and capabilities and Sanity that you'll probably go overboard in a lot of cases. But in other cases, where maybe something was hyper custom in Wix, you might miss a thing or two. So I would advise that if you are going to go the Sanity route, just keep that in mind, that it is a completely custom, homegrown content management system that the developer is on the hook for developing. But other than that, man, sky's your limit, dude. Sky is the limit for sure. And that being said, guys, it's a really good thing that we did what we just did. We have the content management. We have the content types that we built over the last 2 streams. All of that's still in place. We now have a more reliable local development environment. So creating these new content types, I think we have story coming up. That should look a lot better. This actually looks cleaner, in my opinion, as well. The last instance we had was a little cluttery and dated. This is a lot neater. It's smaller. It looks a lot better to me, guys. That's really my point. This looks a lot better to me, and I'm actually glad we ran into the issue we ran into. So that being said, I'm going to commit this code that I have. Let me show you guys the browser as well. This is what I mean, right? This is cleaner, in my opinion, than what we were dealing with before. All that gray background and the UI looked all weird. Like, this is straight up like, hey, you can do whatever branding you want to do, but out of the box, we're going to give you a blank slate. And it's up to you to make it look cool. I like the customizability you described, though. Thanks. No problem, man. No problem. Stick around if you want to see us do some other things. But right now, we're about to sign off. We're just going to commit this code to our branch. which is, again, guys, I know, don't yell at me, but we are basically blowing out everything we did on the previous. Oh, thank you, sir. We're blowing out everything we did on the previous stream, and we're starting from a much better place, though. But yeah, let's go ahead and get this stuff committed. So we talked about pushing code earlier, so it's going to be a git commit here. I'm going to actually go back to our Jira instance so we can figure out what the ticket name is, the ticket ID, and that was this trend junkie 31. So we want to make sure that's included in our message because there's some automation tools in Jira that allows my GitHub pull requests to communicate directly back to Jira, right? So Jira is going to know, thanks to this, that I completed this ticket. So I'm going to say adds, actually, I'm going to say removes NextJS and Sanity combo template, adds generic sanity.io package, and adds slug to person and tag content types, right? Because that's what we did. This is all what we did, right? I'm gonna go ahead and commit that, and then I'm gonna do a git push. Y'all know how this works. Okay, and now that should be on my server. If I go into GitHub, now I have a chance to review this stuff, right? So I'm gonna go over to our actually, yeah, I'm gonna go to this branch here. I'm going to create a pull request because there has been changes now. So I'm going to compare and create a pull request. And I want to say removes X. I'm just going to copy my notes from the commit message. Removes Next.js and Sanity combo template. That's number one. We will put this in a more easy to read format. We'll number it. Adds generic Sanity, adds generic latest sanity.io package, and then of course it adds the slug field to both the person and tag content types. Yep, and that's it, right? We'll stop there. That's good. So now we're gonna create a PR, and this should show us quite a few changes, right? Some checks weren't successful. The sale deployment, of course not, because we have a different environment. Preview, I don't think this is going to work either. We have a different environment that we set up. I didn't know about these Versailles tools, by the way. I feel like that's actually pretty cool that they have these tools. So this is all of the changes we made. This allows you to kind of do a side-by-side comparison. We changed so many things, though, that this is going to be a tough thing to compare, to be honest. I think we added a schemas directory up top, so everything's going to look brand new. For the person, it does understand that we changed some things around, so it does allow us to look at some differences there. We did some things here with social. Same for the tags, right? We changed the way some things were included. We added this circle user to test that out. We should actually get rid of that at some point. But I think for now, this is okay. I'm going to review these changes so I can get them merged. And let's see. Something isn't letting me review these. Let me see how this is working. I think because of the checks here. And we need to get out of this. I don't want this to prevent us from being able to push our code. I don't think we're there yet, to be honest. I do have... Yeah, they'll catch you. All right, sounds good, man. Thanks for stopping by, Zelda. Appreciate it, man. Thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and we need to figure out how to commit this PR. So we know that in PR, in pull request, we have this guy. And the idea normally is to merge this. I think because of these checks, okay, so I can still merge it. I'm gonna do squash and merge. Squash and merge means that this this commit gets added to the base branch. So I think this PR, when I first stood it up, actually, I don't remember. When I first stood this up, no, I did main. I was pushing it directly to main. That should have been developed to main. So yeah, let me change the base. That should always be developed to, so your feature branch should always be going into develop. So it gives you a chance to deploy your develop code and see all of your changes all at once before you commit to pushing those changes to your main branch, which is the only thing that should be running on production. So always push your feature into the develop branch, right? Which is what we almost missed, but we caught it. So these inspections, I have to see how to deal with these. I think that it's just going to take some tinkering from me to see how these work. So I'll probably have some information for you guys on that next time. I'm just going to merge this now into, I'm going to squash and merge now into the develop branch, because that's what we're pushing into right now. I'm going to confirm. I'm not going to add any additional things here. And then now the request successfully merged and closed. I'm going to delete that branch. And now anyone that pulls develop will have my my new code base. You can see here we have a lot fewer files here. If we go into, whoops, sorry about that. If we go into source, the develop branch, we have these, but let me see. That looks off to me. Should be desk and then schema. Oh, we're in main. We're in main. Let's go to develop. So there we go. So now we have desk, schema, static utils. It's a really different system now. And I am going to merge develop into main right now. I think that we should do that. So I'm going to create a new pull request, right? I'm going to do a compare and pull request here. I'm going to say that this is merging, pushing develop back to main. Keep everything consistent. Okay, so that way any of my developers that plan on pushing anything to production soon, any of my developers that plan on pushing anything to production soon will have the latest and greatest that we've approved from the develop branch and from those feature branches. But we finished this ticket now, right? I think we're good. No conflicts, right? We do have some deployment stuff, but we will tackle this separately. I'm going to do a squash and merge here, so that all of the changes from develop go into main. Now when I go back to code, which is always your main branch, we can see here that everything's different. Okay, so now I can go do some housekeeping, go over to my tickets in this sprint. This is the current sprint, so I'll go to projects, Junky, and then this is the current sprint. This is the board for the current sprint. So I can say that this, I should have moved this to in progress, by the way, but I didn't. But I can now say that this is done, right? I've solved for every problem on this document, right? So we know that things had to be, we know that we had the new field. We tested that. We know that the fields consisted of the first and last name for person and the title for slug. We tested that with the fighting games tag and the combo junkie person we created. And then finally, we know that we can't create two of the same people. We tested that when we tried to create a user with the name of combo junkie. So now this ticket has been completed. My sprint is almost complete, right? I have 4 tickets left. And I think when we log in Wednesday, we'll start in on that story content type. And hopefully by then, I have some more information regarding the Versailles code deployment issue that we saw here in GitHub. Honestly, I don't know much about Versailles, and I'm not a DevOps guy, so it's going to take me a little time to wrap my head around it. But it's all in good fun. I had a lot of fun tonight. We figured out some really cool things. Thank you to everyone who joined. I'm a junkie addicted to combos. Y'all already know it's Combo Junkie. Join us Wednesday. We will be back for more of this coding fun greatness. Join us while we create our story content type, which is by far the most complicated content type that we've done so far. But hopefully we learn a lot of things along the way. Hope you guys have a great rest of the night. Peace out, my guys. My guys and gals.